The Valley of the Kings is the resting place of many famous pharaohs. But what if I told you that one of their number might not be who they seem? Welcome to my channel. And today we're exploring the life of a great but lesser-known pharaoh, the legendary warrior Thutmose III. Viewer discretion is advised for this episode, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. The throne would instead go to his half-sister, Hatshepsut. Not only was she the new queen, she was also regent for her young stepson. She claimed that she was actually the daughter of the previous king, Thutmose II, and his favorite wife, Queen Isis. Supposedly, Ra had been so pleased with her lineage that he chose her to be his successor. For a few years, they ruled together, but it was clear that the real power lay with the queen. Thutmose's authority was limited, and he was expected to stay out of politics. Thutmose III began his personal reign in 1425 BC. Before taking the throne, he had honed his skills as a hunter and warrior. Now that he was pharaoh, he could put these skills to good use and expand his empire. During his first year in office, he led an invasion into Nubia and the Levant. This made it easier for the Canaanites to defend, since they could focus their attacks on a smaller group of soldiers. Once the fighting began, the Egyptians were in trouble. Their ranks were thin, and the Canaanite arrows rained down upon them. People celebrated in the streets and sang songs of his bravery. He established a new capital city called Ichtoi, where he built palaces and temples to the gods. He also reorganized the tax system and reformed the legal code. After 54 years of ruling, Thutmose III passed away in 1398 BC. At the time of his death, Egypt was wealthier and more powerful than ever before. In fact, he was so beloved by his subjects that many consider him to be the greatest pharaoh of all time. Over the next decade, Thutmose III continued to lead his armies into battle. He campaigned throughout Asia, pillaging cities and claiming new territories for Egypt. He was undefeated in war and is often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt. If something didn't change, the Egyptians would surely be defeated. Thutmose III needed a miracle. He was victorious in both conflicts, which helped to secure his rule over Egypt. However, his legacy was tarnished by the fact that he was buried in the Valley of the Kings alongside his enemies, Ramses II and Alexander the Great. Historians are still unsure how his tomb was discovered and why it was confused with that of another pharaoh. Either way, the mistake was never corrected, and Thutmose III remains in the wrong tomb. The ruler panicked and ordered his men to attack the Egyptian flanks. Which moments from Thutmose's life surprised you the most? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. This may have seemed like a smart idea at the time, but it ended up being his undoing. The Egyptians were able to regroup and counterattack. They defeated the Canaanites and forced them to flee. That day, 2,000 chariots and 4,000 foot soldiers were lost. Thutmose III had proven himself to be an exceptional military leader and the undisputed master of the Levant. Hatshepsut built many magnificent buildings and monuments during her reign and enjoyed considerable success as a diplomat. There he campaigned for several years, pushing northward as far as Kadesh on the Orontes River. Along the way, he crushed revolts, subjugated entire cities, and left his mark on history as a fearless warrior. Throughout the region, stories quickly spread of the Egyptian army's victories and its legendary commander. Many rulers cowered in fear when they heard his name. However, she was also responsible for several acts of violence against neighboring nations. As Thutmose III prepared for battle, he knew that this would be his greatest challenge yet. The Egyptian army consisted of about 60,000 elite troops, while the Canaanite forces numbered around 5,000. Although the Egyptians had superior numbers, the Canaanites were fierce fighters and would not surrender easily. What followed was one of the largest battles in ancient history, known as the Battle of Megiddo. Even though Thutmose III was technically pharaoh, he was forced to watch as his stepmother committed these atrocities in his name. She commissioned several buildings and obelisks to commemorate the supposed royal bloodline. Everyone assumed that she would rule on behalf of Thutmose III until he came of age, and then he would take the throne. When he was just 12 years old, he married his half-sister, but the marriage was never consummated. It seems that Hatshepsut saw the young princess as nothing more than a pawn in her scheme to gain power. After the wedding, the girl was sent to live in a different palace where she spent most of her time studying literature and theology. Thutmose III likely resented his stepmother during those years and dreamed of a day when he could take his rightful place on the throne. However, when the time came, Hatshepsut didn't want to relinquish power. She went ahead and declared herself the new pharaoh. She was the daughter of King Thutmose II and his wife, Queen Isis. While Thutmose III was only the son of a lesser wife. But she couldn't erase him from people's minds. In fact, the longer she tried to keep him out of the spotlight, the more people began to resent her. Some say it was the god Ammon who grew tired of Hatshepsut's lies. Whatever the case may be, the queen fell seriously ill and soon passed away. When this happened, Thutmose III finally ascended to the throne and became the true pharaoh of Egypt. Back then, it was common practice for kings to have multiple spouses. The royal couple had actually been man and wife before Thutmose II took the throne. During his reign, he had many sons, but only one of them survived infancy. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. A red sun bleeds across the horizon, staining the sands of Egypt a deep burnt orange. Above, the vultures circle, their cries echoing over the vast emptiness. In the distance, a lone figure stands at the edge of a cliff, gazing out over the seemingly endless desert. Who is this man and why does he stand alone here? Let us tell you his story. In the 18th dynasty, Thutmose III was born in Thebes around 1479 BC. To a young age, he lived comfortably with his mother, Queen Hatshepsut. He had every privilege imaginable, but he also had a heavy burden to bear. The reason for this was that his father, Thutmose I, had died while he was still just a child. His grandfather, Thutmose II, was therefore regent during his minority. This old king did everything he could to ensure the boy's safety. But even so, Thutmose's childhood wasn't exactly idyllic. Thutmose III was raised to believe he would never become pharaoh. When Thutmose II passed away, his widow became the most powerful woman in Egypt. In order to justify her claim to the throne, Queen Hatshepsut concocted a wild tale. From a young age, Thutmose III felt overshadowed by his stepmother. When he came of age, Hatshepsut reluctantly stepped down and made him co-regent. Hatshepsut's reign lasted for 21 years. The queen may have wanted to erase all memory of her stepson from official records. But how did he get his revenge on his stepmother for all those years of misery? After the battles were over, Thutmose III turned his attention to Syria. However, there was one man who refused to bend the knee to Pharaoh, the Canaanite king Kadesh. The Egyptian army advanced toward Megiddo, the capital of Kadesh. They approached through a narrow pass between two hills. Luckily for the Egyptians, the Canaanite king made a terrible mistake. After winning the battle, Thutmose III returned to Egypt, where he was greeted as a hero. During his reign, Thutmose III worked hard to make his empire more efficient. For many years after his passing, Egyptians remembered him as a great leader and lawgiver. Now it's time to make your voice heard.